In this week's Torah reading, we find at the beginning the story of Yaakov. He was living Beer Sheva in the land of Israel, where he lived with his father. He learned Torah, he was in tranquility, etc. And he was going to go to Charan. Charan is somewhere in Syria, where he was going to find his future to be father-in-law, Lavan, who was a liar, who was a false person, and deceitful person, etc. The point is that Yaakov had to go from this very holy and nice place to build his family in a very terrible place with very terrible people, etc., etc. So we have to look, what did Yaakov do in order to prepare himself for such a trip? In other words, in order to prepare himself to make a holy family, his children, his grandchildren, etc., etc. What did Yaakov do? Because according to what he did, since the deeds of our forefathers are in Hebrew it's called siman, are a signal of what was going to happen with us, what's going to happen with us, and what can we do in order to live like them. Since that, we have, by looking at Yaakov, we can learn what's good for us. What tools do we have to raise a family, a holy family, in the world as we know it today? So the first thing that Yaakov did, the Torah tells us, he basically started praying. He saw a whole ladder which was on the earth itself, inside the earth, and going to the heavens, and the angels coming up and down, up and down. All this ladder, all these things represents tefillah. Tefillah means prayer. That means, in other words, he connected to God. That's the first thing you have to do at any single situation, because in the case of Yaakov, we're talking about leaving the land of Israel, a holy place, to go to Charan, a terrible place. But in every single situation of a person, we can see ourselves as living comfort zone and to go to a unknown land, so to speak, an unknown place in life. Exactly the same thing applies to us. That's how we see that the stories in the Torah are not just, stories that happened thousands of years ago with people, I don't know who these guys were, etc. No, these are teachings for each one of us. So again, Yaakov was leaving his comfort zone and he was going to a terrible place to live a terrible life. What was his preparation? How did he prepare himself? By praying. He connected to God. This is one of the main meanings of the idea of prayer. Connection. This is just one part, so to speak. Second part, the Torah tells us that he went to sleep in a specific place and he took stones out of the place where he was and he put them around his head. Now, the question is, wait a second, if he was afraid of wild animals and terrible animals, etc., why didn't he cover his whole body? Like make an igloo, go inside with stones, etc., and you're going to be protected from wild beasts. But he didn't do that. He just covered his head. So if he was afraid of the animals, he should have covered the whole thing. If he was not afraid of the animals, why cover your head? What are you doing? Again, Torah is teaching us something very important. Point number one, prayer. Point number two, you have to protect your head. What does that mean? In every single situation in which you're, again, going from your comfort zone, Yaakov, Beer Sheva, etc., to a difficult place, unknown land, Charan, etc., you have to learn Torah. What does that mean? It means that by you incorporating into your system, into your mind, into your hearts, etc., the words of God, the teachings of God, that itself, it's a protection in order to allow you to be successful even outside of your comfort zone. And just as in the case of Yaakov, he raised his family in a terrible place, Charan, etc., that our sages say, Charan av shel oilam, shel makim, ba'olam. This was the place that really raised, so to speak, the anger of God in comparison to all other places of the world. So we're talking about really a really terrible place. So in every single situation that a person faces such difficulties that you have to, because you're forced to. His brother wanted to kill him, so he had to leave Beer Sheva. So you're forced to leave your comfort zone. You should know that God gives us, through the Torah and the teachings of the Torah and the deeds of our forefathers, tools. And the tool number one is Pray to God. Connect to Him. Be conscious of His presence in every single step of your life. And point number 2, learn Torah. Learn what the will of God is. And as soon as you're into this street, so to speak, this path of connecting to God and knowing, understanding the will of God, what does God want from me? For sure, you're going to be successful and safe in any single situation in your life.